Mrs. Pearson?
This
Here.
meeting is being recorded.
Ms. Pearson is present. Ms. Thompson?
Present.
I believe Dr. White is ill today. Dr. White? I believe Dr. Donald Nemick is ill today.
Yes, sir.
Robert
That's
Clemens, Robert Clemens, I'm present. So we do have the quorum of 3. Becky, do we have any public comments?
No, sir, we did not.
Review and approval of the minutes. We have copies of 2 sets of minutes, the minutes for July the 29th, 2022. Do we have any questions, comments, or corrections on those minutes? No corrections. Do I have a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 29th, 2022?
Rose Thompson, I move that we accept the minutes as presented and written. Can you scroll up, Becky? I move that. Okay.
I second the motion. The vote on approving those minutes, Ms. Pearson,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. The next set of minutes are the minutes of the special board meeting of August 31st, 2022. Any comments, corrections on those minutes?
No comments.
We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
Ms. Thompson seconds. We have a motion second to approve the minutes of August the 31st, 2022. Vote on that, Ms. Pearson,
I vote yes.
Ms. Thompson,
Rose Thompson, yes.
Bob Clemens, yes. Okay, now we move to the public hearing on the charter first. Tammy, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Good morning. On page 19, we have provided the background information on this hearing and the charter first rating. The Charter Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas is a rating system based on RMA's financial data, which I will review during this presentation. We are required to post the notice of this hearing in the newspaper, which we have done. And we have attached this information on page 22 in the board book. You can see the different newspapers that we have listed, the notification of the hearing. Our current score for this year and the indicators is on page 24 and 25. There are 21 indicators, 3 of which were not being scored this year due to COVID. Several of the indicators related to the audit and submissions are simply yes, no responses, and some of the indicators are actually based on financial data. We've scored 100 this year, which is based on our fiscal information for the 2020-2021 year. During this presentation, I'll review each of the indicators that are in the data that they're based on. On page 27 and 28, you can see the Charter First score for 2019-2020. During this year, we also received a score of 100. If you could scroll forward to page 31, I'd like to review the annual financial management report. This report is designed to review applicable transactions between RMA and the board of directors, as well as the superintendent. The amounts listed below are the summary of financial transactions between RMA and all of the applicable members below for the fiscal year for 2021, 2021. The transactions are split between reimbursements, outside compensation, gifts, and business transactions. And as you can see, the only applicable transactions are reimbursements for documented expenditures that were incurred for business purposes. Scrolling forward to page 35, you'll find the superintendent employment contract, which is dated from September 17th, 2021 through July 31st, 2023. The contract can also be found on our website, and we've included a screenshot of that on page 34. And this can be found on the RMA website under required resources and then the financial section. And scrolling forward to page 39 is a comparison of the Charter First indicators between the 2 years, the past two rating years. In the right-hand column is our data for the current year, and in the left is the prior year that we're comparing. Indicators 1 through 6 are yes, no questions, all indicating passing scores. And then each of the indicators that I've gone through on the next 2 pages are actually analyzing the financial data of the district. Indicator 7 measures our cash on hand. Indicator 8 measures our current assets and liabilities. Indicator 9 confirms that our revenues exceed our expenses. Indicator 11 measures long-term solvency by looking at assets and liabilities. And indicator 12 measures debt service and that ratio for the district. Indicator 13 measures debt to asset percentages. Indicator 14 is our administrative cost ratio. Indicator 15 measures student to staff ratios. Indicator 17 measures our PEIMS data to the annual financial report. And then indicators 18 through 21 are also yes, no indicators with all passing scores. That is the end of the Charter First presentation part of the hearing. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions, comments? Tammy, this excellent report, continuing to be a good report. This is the, looks like a little bit better than last year.
Yes, I think we had the cash on hand was a great score this year. If everybody can remember, we had the PPP loan during that time. We received it at the end of that year, and we decided to use it the following year. So that really bumped up our numbers as well.
I remember when the cash on hand was $50,000. This looks really good. Sometimes we take this for granted, but when you get a bad report, you will appreciate this more.
Right. Thank you.
I think perhaps that the cash position is getting to the point where we might talk about reducing some debt with cash. I think that'd be worthwhile. Anyway, thank you for the report. Very good report. Any other comments? Move down to the information items. And first is report by Dr. Steve Bourgeois concerning the 360 survey. It's a very interesting survey. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time on today, but I hope maybe at the retreat, we might spend more time really looking at this in depth.
Mr. Clemens, I would just like to give a quick synopsis of Dr. Bourgeois' connection with us. He's helped us. He's been very instrumental with AHEART in that he's worked closely with Christina And he started working with us last year, and he has an interesting system for surveys and helping gather data and information. And he's worked with Christina also in helping us set up screening interviews. So one of the processes we've used in some of the central office hirings is that we've had people respond to some questions on camera, and it would record their responses, and then we could go through those. Dr. Gibbons and I filtered through those, and we identified candidates that we would be interested in actually having a physical interview with. And so he's been working with that, as well as helping us dig into culture and climate data and surveys and things of that nature. And so we've had a partnership now for 2 years. This is the second year, and there's some more things to come that he and I will be working with as well. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Stephen Bourgeois.
Well, thank you, Dr. Anderson. It may be better if I shared my screen. Is that possible? So I can navigate the slides.
Yes, sir. I can certainly make you a co-host.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right, there it is. Thank you very much. I'm going to go over some slides that really summarize in about 10 minutes or less the summative report, and there are 3 of them that are detailed. So I encourage board members to read those, and I'm going to send them again under separate covers so you have them all 3 together. These are surveys that we administered over the past academic year, and this is summary results, and the 360 surveys represented parents, staff, and students at RMA. We really wanted to focus on a couple of questions about attrition and retention. So why do students come and why do they leave? These surveys were across all of the campuses, and we used a mixed methods approach. And as Dr. Anderson said, we deployed some of our research tools that allow us to scale up asynchronous audio, and we have transcripts. So you capture the voices and also can do some pretty high level analysis. Often response rate is a finding in a study, and in this case it is as well. If you look at the right, it shows that you have a very high response rate from your staff members. Typically 30% is a good response rate. This is really excellent. Student response is low, as you can see. So you always wonder, are the responses representative of the student population you have? And then even more so for parents. So I would look at that, everything I tell you, with an asterisk because of the very low response rate. And is there a systematic bias who the parents who did respond? But still, from the 34, we have some interesting data, particularly in the open-ended responses. Here we have a side-by-side, and when you see numbers, these are percentages of agree or strongly agree on a 5-point scale. And I have it displayed because these items were given to all 3 constituents, and we have in most cases the parents having a relatively high rating, and then it drops for students, and then it drops even more for staff. So I think that is instructive. You can see the bullying overall, that these are pretty good numbers, but then the staff has maybe a different opinion there. The welcoming environment, the parents' perception is so, but then it drops. And these are relatively low scores compared to the AHEART average, which is typically in the 80s. Safety, the perception of the parents is high, and then it does drop. Remember that these are percentages of 4s and 5s, so the neutral responses go in the denominator. So it's important to see where these numbers come from. Disruptive behavior, not a problem. So the staff does have an impression that the disruptive student behavior is a problem. And kindness for high school students, the perception is always low on that. And so my average is usually about 25%. Interestingly, students in 3rd grade are very kind, or their perceptions, and it drops every year until about 8th grade. And then it creeps up again. These next two slides are about the parent survey specifically, and remember there's an asterisk because the response sample is only 34. But these are sorted from high to low. Again, their level of agreement. So you could say that they have a strong belief in the staff and that they have a concern for the child. So this is essentially 70%. It's a good score. And discipline is enforced. And you can see that where it's really helpful to look at the high communication. That's when things start to be, these are areas that you can address. And we recommend using this type of a survey every year. So you can maybe pick 2 or 3 of these and intervene and do something, and then see if the assessment is higher on those. But a lot of this has to do with communication. And then at the end, the physical building. And so these are perceptions of these 34 parents. And again, I would recommend, picking a few of them and seeing, digging into them a little bit. And there is some insight into some of these if you read the summative report and the open-ended responses. And just a sampling of some of the things that parents said about communication, and I highlighted just some of the key points here. All about equipment, and there weren't a lot of responses about this, but it did come out, and also it corroborates what students said. And I think one of the key findings today is about the role of direct instruction and having more help from teachers. So we get that from all 3 groups. I'm transitioning to the staff survey, and they're hypothesizing why students may leave, and so they're thinking the top ones, and these are categories that we came up with first, so they just sorted them, and these are the mean scores. So they put workload at the top, grading policy, that's the previous one. So I know that you've updated that, and I do recommend studying the differences in perception. And the things at the bottom are maybe very important, but not according to teachers, why students are leaving. And then a few representative quotes. Edgenuity does come up from teachers or staff members quite often, so it's going to be something to maybe follow up on, and then also the same thing from the students. And then the idea of direct instruction, the faculty is saying that it hinders to some extent their ability to have quality relationships and foster a sense of belonging. They're not saying eliminate the program, of course, but they're wondering if there's a way to balance that with direct teaching and interacting with students who are really to begin with, they've had a bad experience with education, and so they're thinking that the relationships are crucial. Finally, we have the student responses, and this is one in the initial report that I did flip, and so these are the accurate responses, so I want to make sure I update those for all of you when you read the reports. But they put edgenuity on the very top on what might cause them to withdraw. So I think this is a really crucial slide. Expectations for assignment, they did put disruptive behavior. These are categories, again, that we came up with. So it doesn't mean that some of these are not important, but they put at the top. And so these are your customers, and that these are what they think might cause them to leave. And then we have, some at the very top, we did a question about is school important to them? And 88% of your students said yes. It was a yes or no. And so we wondered then, why did they come to RMA and why is school important to them? And so here are some of the things. A lot of them are there because of credit recovery, to accelerate, really to graduate sooner. And so that's part of the program, and the students appreciate that. And then they're thinking ahead, what can graduation lead to? And many mention college as well. I like this quote about being an example to younger siblings to persist. And some of these statements, if you look at the full report, are things that you can use, on the marketing side. as well. So you have some real rich data here, and particularly in the summative reports. Students requested flexibility with makeup particularly. And then these are, I think, powerful statements about, these are high school students, and this came up. So these are not isolated comments, but about being treated like adults. We have some recommendations, and I'm just going to mention them briefly, and I get into more detail in the written report. But I think the fact that parents were relatively low in feedback, and students too, actually, find a way to get higher response rate, let the parents know the survey's coming, and really it is a sign of the parental engagement for them to take a survey. And then one way to do it is to give back results, let the parents or the staff or students know that you heard them and know what you're going to do with these results, because there may be a perception that it's a idle activity to do it. Ingenuity came up so often that it's worth looking at potentially through focus groups, but particularly looking at students and staff, because they tended to agree from what I saw here. The teacher's role, I mentioned that before, that's really central to this paper, is what is the teacher's role at RMA. Attendance policies, my impression is that things have improved, but I think you could put numbers to that and see if it actually made a difference based upon the change. I know it's a relatively recent change. Always, when you look at a survey like this, you can be overwhelmed by data, which means I recommend you just look at a few things that you can move the needle on, and then measure them in the same way a year later, so that you have some numbers to stand behind progress. And we always recommend to look at year-to-year change, however you do that, and then give the results back. I think that's a key idea. So I can answer questions if you like. And again, I encourage you to read the full report.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the surveys collected and administered?
We did them at different times. So we I think in November, we did the parent one first, and then in the spring we did the staff, and then the students were the last ones to do it in last spring.
I have another question. How was the survey distributed?
It was distributed from the central office with with links via email to the distribution lists.
So I'm curious to see, I mean, as the result for the parents one, do we have updated information, or why was there such a low, I mean, could you maybe give us an understanding as to why there was a low response for parents and how we can engage them more maybe?
It's an interesting question, pardon me, because typically parental response is very high, and I give these surveys every week at many different schools. It could be just the nature of the school model. I work with another dropout credit recovery school, and I had the same issue. There's a lack of engagement and lack of response. So it's not unique to your school by any means.
So, sorry, continue question, sorry.
No, please.
So, I mean, I saw the higher response for the students. And so I wonder now if there's a problem, obviously, like, well, I mean, if you're saying that this is something that's very common with dropout recovery charters, that there's obviously a problem in us engaging with the parents. How can we as a collective work towards that? Have you had any success with any of the other schools?
Yes, we've taken, I guess, more drastic measures and finding different ways to get them the link. I mean, the email is one way, and that's typically what we did. So this approach is what we almost always do, but we've had trouble reaching, so we use text messages, and that can definitely increase because people do open text messages. They don't ignore them. And so we recommend triangulating, and based on these results, because I didn't expect this, honestly. I would say, use text messages, use email, let them know it's coming. Any media you have, you should, publicize it ahead of time. And even for parents who come in, have a QR code and give them on a physical document. And finally, some of the groups I work with do mailers, with that QR code. So use everything at your disposal. And then anybody who comes to campus, if they're a parent, just give them that QR code, because I think you could triple that, honestly, if it was because I think it's probably the most important finding in the study.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Have
again,
any other questions? Dr. Anderson, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say again, this is, part of our effort to identify the problems and help improve retention across the district. And so that's the biggest piece as to why we had this information conducted and broken down in such great detail, so that we can see what areas we can work on and things specifically that we can focus on. And furthermore, I believe Dr. B and I, we've talked about some focus groups at the campuses. Actually, and part of the strategic plan is me actually having roundtables at the campuses. And I hope to get to that this year now that we're a little bit further along past COVID, so that we can kind of dig deeper into these areas. So.
Any more comments? Dr. Ismail, I think this is an excellent report. I would hope maybe we would have some time at the retreat we have coming up to dig into it a little bit more. Assuming the detail would be say maybe in the area of facilities, if some of these comments might be targeted at one or more campuses where we at least would know if we have a problem we need to attack on our facilities. I think what I see from it is the most successful charter schools have great parent support. I think our charter school is unique. One reason we have our charter schools, we have students who in their ISD, they don't get parent support, and that parent support, same in the charter school, it doesn't carry over. So I think that's a huge challenge, just trying to figure out how to get parents involved. I think in the charter world, that's the key thing to success in most of the top charters, but most of the top charters are not dealing with dropout recovery students. So
that's right.
our environment's a little bit different. Was an excellent report, though, and I appreciate it. Move on to
Thank you all.
superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. B.
You're
And,
welcome.
you have a good weekend.
You as well, and my pleasure talking to you all. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to again just start out by recognizing some people that were very instrumental in the Texas Charter School Association's conference on this week. First of all, Ms. Averill Christina presented along with CSS on HR session at the Charter School Association. Ms. Baker and Mr. Campbell tag teamed principals of the Houston campus and Pasadena campus, and by the way, 2 DBU doctoral students. They presented at the Charter School Association on leadership. It was a huge turnout. Room was packed, standing room only at the association. And I think that is very recommendable and very commendable, excuse me, in the work that they did. They represented RMA well. I left the conference with no doubt that RMA is a recognized organization amongst TPCSA. We even got a shout out at the general session for the work that we're doing with the legislative body for the state of Texas. And so we're excited about that and the fact that people actually know RMA, and we want to continue to develop that. And I think Ms. Pearson, you probably would agree that we had a presence at the conference this year. And so I was very proud to be a representative of RMA and the work that we're doing. As far as the district update, the enrollment, oh, and I can't, I'd be remiss not to thank Becky. You know, she had a shower cap on and her nightgown in the lobby, you know, making sure everybody had everything they needed, not literally, but I teased her about that. But she was there to make sure that everyone had everything that they needed, that the principals that were late getting in had late arrivals. She was down getting their badges for them and making sure that everything was smooth. We had some extra rooms. She helped me get one of the other superintendents from another charter, get that room transferred over to Dr. Stewart. And so she just was everywhere doing everything and participating in the sessions and doing everything to help us be in the best possible position and get the most information possible. So thank her for all of the organization and making it go. Currently, our enrollment as of 9/22, we are at 1,658 kids. We have in the SOS system, the onboarding system, we had as of September 22nd, we were pending parent completing the applications, 36 students. We had 36 applicants. We had 3 that was waiting on the registrars to accept the application. In pre-enrollment, pending counselors to enter their start dates, we had 118 students. And so once all of those kids are processed, our total enrollment should move up to 1,852 students. We had 510 of those students were new students who enrolled for the first time in 2022, 2023. So there were 510 students who were not rollovers from the previous year. And then, as you all know, as I stated back at the beginning in August, our enrollment goal for this year, based on the 5-year average enrollment for the October snapshot date, we're trying to get 2,000 students. And so we've been very aggressive in rolling out billboards, commercials, and just trying to do, you know, but the greatest marketing tool is still word of mouth. And so important that we continue to work on creating a culture where students go out and they tell others about what the benefit of RMA has been or is currently being to them and for them. And so that's the greatest advertisement that we can get. I shared it's going to become more competitive. I shared this with Mr. Clemens this morning at the conference. There's actually a dropout recovery school based out of Michigan that is coming, that is in Texas, Learning for Life. And they're doing some 1882 partnerships. These are agreements where they work with districts to go inside of a district and partner with them and run a dropout recovery program. And so they're growing and coming to Texas. I met with the lady that was the presenter, and I shared with her that we're in it as well, and she seemed open to partnering and saying, well, we can take these schools, you can take these high schools. And so we're going to get more into the 1882 agreements, which are partnerships with ISDs, and we're going to explore that as well as another option of growth. As far as attendance data, as of September 16th, 2022, enrollment was at 1,641. Now, remember, that was 6 days before that other number up at 1,658. And so we were up about 73, which now we're up about almost 90 students from where we ended the 21-22 school year. And ADA is at 80.7%, which is about 1,324 students averaging, and retention is currently at 92.7%. And so all very positive and encouraging numbers. Any questions about enrollment or attendance data from the board? Okay. If not, as far as the district financial stability, the district has built the 22-23 budget on 1,443.7 average daily attendance revenue, which is about 74% of 1,950. And so we're actually, even though the numbers is not 1,950, but because we're doing 80%, we're actually well on target and in line with budget. So that's a good thing. And we will continue to closely monitor and utilize the budget responsibly throughout the year in a manner that best positions us to be in a surplus and to maintain a good charter first rating. And so, as you remember, I just put some information on page 58 about the federal funds, the ESSER's monies, which we got for COVID, and where we are with that. The planning amount that we were awarded for ESSER 2 was actually $1,671,000. And currently, as of date, we have $1,125,000 remaining. That money was designated to be used for professional learning for campus principals and teachers, staffing of distance teachers, and for HVAC replacements and upgrades at all campuses. And those are, and so that money will continue to be utilized appropriately. Those funds expire in 2024. So we still have one more year to do that, to utilize those. In ESSER 3, we were awarded $3.7 million, and to date, we have a remaining balance of $2.7 million. And that money was appropriated for summer school, professional learning, social and emotional learning for students, personalized learning with live one-to-one virtual tutoring, staffing 2 parent and family engagement coordinators, which we will be looking at, and then student computers, instructional software, and potential staff potential teacher salary increases, which we use part of that for teacher signing bonuses and retention bonuses. And so that's money that's still there, in which next year, hopefully we'll be able to utilize some more for retention bonuses again in the 23-24 school year. Becky, would you scroll down, please? And then we have the T-class, which provides us some additional money for the College Bridge program, the Texas College Bridge program, where students can get college credits. So we had $190,000 given to us by the agency, and the remaining balance is $171,000. And that goes towards staff stipends for staff that work with the College Bridge program, and instructional supplies and materials for that program, which is being utilized. And again, this is money that we have, that will be used over the next couple of years. As far as staffing, we on average, we have about 16 vacant positions throughout the district at any given time. We have 9 currently. We currently have 163 full-time staff and 52 temporary staff. And so you can see the vacant positions across the district with pretty low compared to what some of the ISDs and some of our counterpart charter schools are dealing with. And so, as you see going down, we have 4 campuses that are 100% staffed and none that are 70% or below. And so that's very commendable to the work that the principals are doing at the campuses, as well as Christina in getting those people processed and fingerprinted and background checked in an expeditious manner. And hopefully, Christina, how many have capitalized on the new hire sign-on bonus? Do you have that number for me?
I do not have it available at the moment, but I can put something together.
We can barely hear you.
Oh no, I don't have it available at the moment, but we're putting together those lists right now.
I can't hear you.
Sir, she's saying that they don't have them. She doesn't have it at the moment, but they're working on it right now.
Okay, but and so we've utilized so, and I'm sure that that's played a part in whatever new hires that we've been able to recruit as well. All right, could we scroll down again, Becky? Thank you. And again, as I'm very proud of our district. I shared with somebody at the charter school conference, we're very fortunate to have 62% of our staff certified. As a charter, that's not a requirement. We really have to have a bachelor's degree. And so to be able to have more than half your staff certified as a charter school, I think is very commendable. And so as you can see, the average teacher experience by campus there, which is right around probably about 5.5, 6 years for the average for the district. And so I think it's a very good thing to be able to say that we have 62% of our staff certified and about 6-year average teacher expectancy. So, and as far as COVID-19, there are no new updates as far as the quarantine requirements or any updates from TEA regarding that. And we did add an organizational chart update. We had 2 changes. Diana Rios transitions from special populations registrar to a new position of central office registrar. What we did was there were several campuses that lost their registrars or had vacancies. And so we created one central office registrar position that serves as the registrar for those 3 campuses, for 3 of our district, or for 3 of our campuses. And this is just a test to see how it works. But Diana is actually responsible for 3 campuses across the district in processing and doing all the registrar work for those campuses once we had those vacancies. And so she falls under Jim and Sylvia. She reports directly to Sylvia, who is the PEIMS coordinator, and they work very closely in that process. Any questions? And then the other one is the special populations position, which is Ms. Tanya Johnson, who filled the role of Diana Rios that was vacated by Diana Rios. Are there any questions for me from the board about my report? All right, then, Mr. Clemens.
Okay, no questions. Next, Tammy, financials.
Hi, again. I have summarized some of the August financial information on page 67. As of the August financial reports, we have accrued 13 days out of our 180 days of state revenue for this school year. This is our 2nd fiscal month into the year. And because we have only accrued 13 days, we do have a deficit because our revenue accrual is still so small. Looking at the chart on page 68, we are looking at the enrollment data by month for the past 3 years. And as of this report, the highest day in August was 1,280 students. And on the following page is our ADA for the month of August. And as Dr. Anderson has indicated, we are at 84% attendance, which is higher than we've seen in many of the past several years at RMA. On the following page, this chart represents our foundation school payment revenue that we received versus the amount that we budgeted for. We budgeted for 16.8 million, and we are currently with a slightly lower enrollment, recording revenue of 15.5 million. And on the following page, this is our days cash on hand. As a reminder, this is calculated by breaking down our annual expenses into a daily amount and then dividing it by the cash balance at the end of the month. And so if a charter has 60 days cash on hand, then TEA gives them the highest rating for this indicator. And as you can see from this chart, we have more than double that for August. On page 72, we can see the month of August that we have $2.9 million in expenses and $1.1 million in revenue. Again, because we use the accrual method and we're only at 13 days of August for school days. And on the following page, we are looking at our administrative cost ratio. Currently, this ratio is higher than we would normally like to see for this time of year. The equation compares function 21 and 41 expenses, which are considered administrative, to the instructional costs, which we record in function 11, 13, and 31. Our expenses for function 41 have remained constant. They've only gone up $300 over last year. Our expenses for function 21 have increased slightly because we have one executive position that was hired in June being coded to that function code. So not a high increase either. The reason that we are seeing a higher administrative cost ratio is because the function 11 expenses have decreased about $675,000 over last year. And the reason for this is because we are using our federal, primarily ESSER funds to code some of our instructional expenses, but our administrative costs are remaining the same. So our administrative cost ratio only looks at our expenses for Fund 420, which is our state funds. And so we're using the same expenses for administrative level, but our instructional costs are decreasing only because we are supplementing those with the ESSER funds that we have available and only have another year to spend, as Dr. Anderson reviewed in his presentation. So in the coming months, we've got to figure out how to spend our federal dollars, but at the same time, keep our administrative and our instructional costs to promote a healthy balance in our state funds. As you know, maintenance of effort, we call that MOE, is also an indicator that we are maintaining the same level of spending per student out of our state funds before we supplement with federal money. So that's something that we're going to have to continue to monitor this school year to make sure that we spend those federal dollars, but we somehow are watching our administrative costs. Okay, on page 75, this is an estimated charter first rating. We didn't really have any on that slide, Vicki, sorry. If the fiscal year was to end today, we would score a meets standard. In addition to the points lost on the administrative cost ratio, indicator 10 and 12 are just directly attributed to being only 2 months into the fiscal year. So those really are year-end indicators once everything has come through. And on the following page, our income statement shows that our spending is on track for this time of the year. Since we have only accrued for 13 days of revenue, we would expect to see about 7% of our revenues and 18% of our expenses on the income statement, which is about what we're looking at right now. Page 77 is our balance sheet, which reflects our assets and liabilities. I'd like to point out that we have a healthy net asset balance at the bottom, near the bottom of that page, of $13 million, which just shows the health and longevity of RMA over the years. And page 78 is our most current summary of finance dated September the 2nd. That is the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions.
Questions, comments on the financial report? Tammy, this is a good report and I appreciate it. I would like though to see some way to catch up a little bit more on getting out the reports that we asked for earlier this year that we've received. One set of reports at this time through August. If you could sort of target getting the bank statements dealt with by the 10th of the month, maybe we could get these animal reports that we asked for on a little bit more of a timely basis, the balance sheet, income statement, intertransactions, and summary finance.
I
And
think
we'll have a couple of times during the year when we don't meet for 2 months, and so that'll help us sort of keep up with where we are during those long stretches when we're not having meetings.
right, Dr. Anderson and I discussed the vendor transactions about not putting them in board book and emailing them out when we do the monthly email to the board meeting, to the board members when we don't have a meeting. Is that sufficient?
Yes, I just think we probably should get the report every month, whether we do or don't have the board meeting.
Right, we did email them last month. Did you receive that email?
Yes.
Okay,
Received the one for August. For July, I'm sorry. The
Yes.
July is the only thing distributed to this point. That's the only one I received is the July report.
and then this is August right here. So we've only closed through August. The September reports are not available yet. The month hasn't.
I would like to have the email reports, whether we have a board meeting or not, so I have something sequential for the year for each month.
Oh, you want the report like you got in July each month, even if it's so like this, even though we have a board meeting today, he would still have liked to have this report emailed, is what he's saying.
Okay,
Before.
I'll send you an email later, sort of clarify.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it offline. Thank you.
okay.
Sorry, if we can also get a copy, that'd be great.
Yeah, she
Yes,
sends
we'll
it
send
out
it
to all of you all.
Thank you.
She sends it to all of you all each month. Mirza, you should have received it also, the one that Mr. Clemens received.
Okay.
Carl, I think you're up next with the facilities update.
Yes, good morning, board. I wanted to bring you guys up to date on our operations projects that we have going at the moment. So this morning we're going to update the board on our current Midland and Fort Worth relocation projects. The board will also be updated on the district's recent safety and security audits, as well as recommendations and next steps, as well as the upcoming multi-hazard emergency operations submittal to the Texas Safe Schools Center. And I've included the chart of our current leases so that we can take a look at that and let you know where we're at in that. So we'll go down to page 83. So since the following board meeting, I'll just kind of go over this real quick. We went out to bid again on the Midland project. This is our third bidding of that project. We actually received a bid from Martinez Contractors, who won that bid. We had a board meeting on the 31st of August where we approved the contractors to get started. And then following that, we had a pre-construction walkthrough with the contractors and the architects on site on the 15th and 16th of September. So currently the contractors going through their bonding process, and they should be actually starting work any minute now. So this project is currently on track to finish in March, and our students would actually start school on March the 20th, which would be following spring break if everything goes well. If everything does not go well, we have another 3-month option on our current lease, which we could extend if we had to. So currently Midland is finally moving along, and we're happy to see that one moving forward. Going to the next page, just to give you an update on kind of the schedule as it stands. We had the board approve the contract negotiations on the 31st. Construction, we time it between September 1st and February 1st, and with an opening on the 20th of March. And we'll go to the next page, Becky. At the last board meeting, the board requested kind of a color scheme for the outside of the building so that you'd be able to differentiate between the RMA portion of the building and the church portion of the building. And so what I wanted to show you was kind of what we've done at the Corpus and also the Pasadena buildings. So that kind of bright green is our target color for the outside, and then that kind of cream color is the base color with some of the signage. We will be recreating something similar to this in the Pasadena, in the Midland campus. So Becky, if we'll go to the next slide on 86, this is the exterior of the building, and our portion of the building will be the fellowship hall, which is the far building to the right, and our administrative offices would be that center building with the 4 windows there. And you'll be able to see, we won't change the color of the brick, but that kind of tan color will become a cream color, and the little spire that's on the side and the awning above the doors will become that bright green color. And on the side of the building, you'll see something very similar to what we've done in Corpus. We'll have like a reimagined high school and some graphics that will, as you're coming down the road, you'll be able to see that is an RMA school.
Now, Carl, are we, correct me if I'm wrong, on that stem there, is a sign not going up there?
So if you go down to the next slide, it's a little closer view of that. And what we're looking at right now is over to that steeple looking thing will become the RMA colors. And then to the right of that, on that flat wall, we're looking at putting the RMA raised letters on that area right there.
I want a sign there.
And the on the spire on that.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll look at see if we can find a way to do that. They
Yeah,
have some-
marquee, because one of the things that we have is we have and we're moving this way. I think I talked to Ms. Thompson about it too. These schools, we need marquee signs. We don't have any way to put messages up to the community or anything. And so we're moving more to like trying to do marquee signs where we can actually put messages up on the boards.
So we'll investigate the possibilities of putting some sort of signage at the top of that, see what we can do with that. If we'll go down to the next slide, this is a building in the back. Once again, you'll see the colors change on this to the kind of the cream color with the green RMA standout color, so that you'll be able to identify this building as an RMA building. And we'll go down to the next slide. Once again, I include these just so you can see kind of where we're at. This was the existing layout of the building. And then going down to the next slide, this is the proposed layout of what we'll have when we're finished. And going down to the third floor plan, this is our shared space versus our RMA space. And you can see kind of some of the furniture layouts in there. And then the next page, once again, this is kind of the current state. And as we go forward at the next meetings, I'll be including some updated slides so you can see where we're at with construction. So I'll let you follow along with that at the board meetings. So let's go down to talk about the Fort Worth buildings. So working with Dr. Anderson to try to do a relocation or to decide what we're going to do with our Fort Worth project, our relocation. Currently, we're at 6785 Camp Bowie Road, and our current lease is up on 8/31/2023. We'll most likely end up extending that lease and continuing to work on the relocation, just maybe delaying it a little bit, as Dr. Anderson had indicated. And we had been working on a place on South Freeway, which when I did this presentation, we had decided to withdraw our LOI for that property because of some unfavorable engineering studies. However, Dr. Anderson and I discovered just yesterday that piece of property has gone into foreclosure, and our brokers are currently contacting the banks to find out if there is a possibility that we would be able to obtain that property for what is owed. And so we're working on that today. We'll hope to have some information fairly quickly on that. With that said, we may be taking a second look at that location. The location is a great location. The engineering studies were not favorable just because of the cost that they were wanting for the building. But now that it's going into foreclosure, that may all change, and we may end up with, as we did in our Killeen building, where we actually got that one out of foreclosure as well. That might actually work very favorable for RMA. And then also we're working on a third option. We've talked to a couple of developers while we were at the charter school conference, and we're investigating a different way of perhaps moving into these buildings going forward, and working on the remodels or rebuilding. So a developer would assist with the purchase and construction of the new campus, and then there's RMA would lease the building for 10 years and take ownership at the end. So that's an option that we're investigating. But currently, this project, that we'll consider it on track, and if delayed, we could exercise our option to extend our current lease in 1 year to 2 years for or not. So we're currently working on that. Next slide shows in red the projects that we're working on. If you'll notice, in 2024, our Amarillo property comes up for a lease renewal. This is one of our struggling properties that I'm sure that we'll want to look at replacing. And also our Houston property comes up for renewal in 2024. So those are some projects that we have coming up in the non too distant future. Going down to page 96, I wanted to go over with the board some of the school safety and security things that have taken place over the last few weeks and months. We've had to conduct a summer targeted partial safety audit, which is completed and turned in. We conducted an exterior door safety audit, which is completed. We have also convened our safety and security committee at the district level, and the campuses are currently doing so at the campus level after school started. During that meeting at the district level, we reviewed the multi-hazard emergency operations plan. And there is a second submittal due during the month of October. It's actually due on October the 13th. And we turned that plan in to the state in March. They made some recommendations, which we've added to the plan. And this submittal that we'll be doing on the 13th of October, they will be just checking to make sure that those corrections were made. And some additional items they've requested have been added. So we're working on that. Conduct training and campus safety on safety procedures. That's ongoing. That's being worked on in conjunction with the campus's security committees. We have scheduled all of our mandatory drills for the year, and those are currently in progress. So we'll consider that complete. We've ensured that all threat assessment team members have been trained. Dr. Givens has worked hard to make sure that that's taken place. So we're complete there. And last, we'll review and update the access control procedures. So Dr. Anderson has sent out some directives to the campuses, which require us to do some locked doors in the classrooms. We run all of the kids through the metal detectors, and we wand. We have our Raptor systems at the front desk. We require people to sign in using a sign-in sheet, and our guards are currently doing patrols first period and fourth period or fifth period to make sure that all the exterior doors are locked during class. And then they also do patrols every hour to make sure that all of the classroom doors are secured. And just to, I'm just going to show you some slides real quick on what some of these things are looking like. The summer targeted audit was completed for each of our campuses. We'll go down to the next one. This is a shot from our door audits. We went through and we have a plan in place. And you guys will be hearing more about this as we develop costs and prioritizations for these items. And then the last slide I have here is the door audit. This is kind of one of the requirements by the state is that the doors are checked on a weekly basis to make sure that they are all functional and locked during school. We've gone a step further, and we have put barcodes on all of our exterior doors, and our security guards check those twice a day to verify that all of these doors are locked and secured. We also track this through a computer system where they do the reports on a cell phone, and it goes into a database where we can track these things throughout the year. And also a daily report is sent to principals, and we get notifications if there's any problems with our doors. So I think we've gone a step further than what the state even requires. So with that, that's my operations report. If you guys have any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to answer those at the moment. And if not, Dr. Anderson, it's all yours. Or Mr. Clemens, it's all yours.
I don't think there are any questions. Good report. Next up, Jim Pollock, I think you're up for the next two items, AF accountability first.
Good morning, everyone. The next information item is the accountability, A through F accountability, which is state accountability. And it was released in mid-August. And it's been a couple of years since the last release of accountability ratings, which occurred in 2019. And as you're aware, the accountability system provides academic performance in 3 domains, which is student achievement, school progress, and then closing the gaps. And to align with Senate Bill 1365 this school year, unless you received an A, B, or C rating, you would receive a not rated label. And so we do have some campuses that receive the not rated label this school year. But with the release of the information, TEA does require that the accountability is presented to the board in a summary. So the summary's been prepared and it follows. Becky, if you want to move down. And what I did, just overall, I looked at the data and analyzed it, looking at the domains, the 3 domains, and then each component that makes up the domain, as well as all the EOC subject areas, and then their performance level. And then I also disaggregated that by the all student group and then special student populations. And then looking at our data from 22 to 2019, or from 2019 to 2022, the district did maintain its C rating that was assigned in 2019, although we do show slight improvement. We're still at a C rating. 2 campuses improved their rating from an F actually to a C rating this school year, and then, or last school year. And then 7 campuses were assigned the not rated label, and 4 of those maintained their D rating. But then we did have 3 campuses that lowered their rating. And then what the data that follows is disaggregated by the different subject areas, and then also the performance levels, which are the approaches, meets, and masters. And then, like I said, the special student populations. I also included the CCMR criteria and the graduation rate. So it sounds like a lot, but I tried to shorten it and just review the campus, the district at one time, and then each campus. Becky, if you'll go down to the next page. This is the district information. And like I said, we did maintain our C rating. The table at the bottom is from 2019. You'll see the year to the far left. The table above that is for 2022. And so what I did was highlight the improvement or the regression, and then some of the components that impacted that change. So for instance, the district did maintain its C rating, so it's highlighted in yellow, but it did improve its overall score. So in 2019, we had an overall score of 72. In 2022, we had an overall score of 73. So some of the components that impacted that were the STAR performance. It did go up from 17% to 18%. And that STAR performance looks at the performance levels. So it's looking at the rate of students that are at approaches, those that are at meets, and those that are at masters. It adds those 3 rates together and then divides by 3. And to just a quick target for our district, we need a 20% or better for that component rating in order to get a C. So we did improve slightly. We moved up to an 18. And then the other category that impacted was the bonus points that were awarded. And we do receive bonus points for retesters that retest the EOC test and pass it. Or we receive, depending on the rate of the students that accomplish that. And then the other bonus points that can be received are for the graduation plans. So TEA requires that graduates are on a foundation high school plan with an endorsement. So the rate of students, depending on the rate, you earn additional bonus points for that, up to 5. So we did increase our bonus points for that category from 2 bonus points last year to 3 bonus points this year. And then the next page provides a summary of the same categories, but for since 2018, which is the implementation of the A through F accountability. That's on the left-hand side, and it is color-coded to show you whether or not there was improvement from the previous year. And as we already talked about, 2020 and 2021, we were not rated, although in 2021, we did receive data. So that data is included in the summary as well. And then on the right-hand side, just to provide a visual, the performance, the academic performance for the STAR testing is broken down by overall passing, and then at the meets and masters level, the passing rates, as well as some of the special populations, which includes the special ed students and the emergent bilingual students. And this is just their passing rates overall across all subjects. So you can see the trend line. It does dip during the pandemic, but we are beginning to rebound from that and improve our students' academic success. So that's at the district level. And again, on the left-hand side, it breaks it down more into detail by each EOC subject, and then the CCMR criteria. So depending on where students fall in meeting one of the indicators for CCMR, you'll see that percentage rate. And as you can see for the district, it did improve pretty much everything, either improved or remained the same. Only dual credit remained the same at 2%. So we are working diligently to improve that. And this is before Dr. Gibbons and Mr. Showers started implementing heavily this year the CCMR opportunities. So we're looking forward to next year that this will be significantly higher rates. And then the graduation rate is at the bottom of that data, which includes the 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year for all students, and then the subpopulations of students. And after the pandemic, we did lower our graduation rates. So that will be improved as well this coming school year with all the opportunities that the academic team is putting together. And then what follows is the same information, but just for every campus. And so you can see where the campus is, whether or not they improved from the previous year, from 2019, which is the last rating that was assigned, through to 2022. And I highlighted the same information. So if they did improve, what components offered that improvement. And so you can see for Killeen, not to pick on Killeen, but Killeen did have a D rating in 2019. And if they had been assigned a rating this year, which they did not, they received the not rated label. But if they did, it would have been an F rating. And part of the reason for that is their overall score dropped. They lost a bonus point for their rate of graduates that were on a foundation high school plan with an endorsement. And then their CCMR points dropped quite a bit. But the CCMR points for us outside of this year for RMA was pretty much students enrolled with those CCMR points. Like I said, this year, the academics team has implemented quite a few more opportunities for students to achieve a CCMR point. So we're looking for that to double what it was in 2019 is what we're looking forward to. So that should be regained in the coming year. And then it gives you the longitudinal data for Killeen and the trend lines as far as the STAR achievement. And you can just filter on through Becky and go to the bottom, but it's 2 sheets for every campus, and it's a wealth of information, and it does show improvement or regression. There is some regression in some of the subjects. I know we still struggle in English and math, and the academics team is working to improve those. And then just to highlight towards the very bottom, which is page, I'm looking for Pasadena. Pasadena on 119, and again, Midland South on 120. You can see where they were assigned an F rating in 2019 and how significantly they improved in 2022 with a C rating, and showing you for the most part, it was academic growth. That, well, let me go back to Pasadena, which is on 119. they improved overall for most of their components. Their STAR performance increased, the rate of students receiving a CCMR point increased, and their graduation, although most graduation rates went down, theirs did improve. And primarily that's because back in 2019, DA requires 5 years of data. And because Pasadena and Midland South are relatively new, we weren't allowed to use their graduation rates. So we had to rely on dropout rate, which we know we have a high dropout rate because we are a dropout recovery district. So, but now that we're able to use their graduation rate, it did bump them up quite a bit. And then they also increased their school quality, which is the grads with a CCMR point and grade 12 students with a CCMR point. So those factors increased their score quite a bit, and they were able to achieve a C rating, which is huge, which helped the district to maintain its C rating. And then on page 121, for Midland South, I just wanted to point out that most of our campuses were assigned a rating using domain 1, which is student achievement, but Midland South was able to use their domain 2, which is academic growth, and that's looking at students that took 8th grade math and then algebra 1 with us, and the rate of growth that they achieved by taking that and passing the assessment. And then it also looks at English 1 and English 2 to view the growth on that EOC. And it's determined, growth is determined, go back. So growth is determined by improving your overall score, and it doesn't impact, usually it doesn't impact RMA because it requires a minimum number of students to be included in that calculation. And so Midland South was able to achieve the minimum number of students and show significant progress. So they were able to use their domain 2 score for academic growth, which resulted in, if you look to the far right, when you do the conversion, because TA takes their raw score, which was 79, converts that to a scaled score, which is 88. And then we get to count 70% of that 88% for domain 2, which resulted in a 61.6. Whereas most of our other campuses in the district using domain 1, we achieved like a 50%. So this increased it significantly, being able to use that academic growth domain 2 component. And I believe that is the end of the data, ending with Midland South. And so much of this data will be maintained from year to year, so we'll continue to show growth and some regression, but hopefully from here on out growth. And I did want to mention that it should be significantly improved next year because of the CCMR opportunities that are being implemented, as well as DEA is finally understanding dropout recovery schools and the difference in our students that we have. And so they are implementing additional accountability measures. And one of those is for academic achievement on the STAR EOC test. And so I mentioned that for now, the raw score is adding the rate of students that are pass the test at the approaches level, meets level, and master's level, and dividing by 3. But next year, it will be the rate of students at the approaches level, plus the rate of students at the meets level times 2, and then plus the rate of students at the master's level times 3. And then you add those rates together, divide by 3, and it does significantly bump our results up quite a bit. We did a test using this year's data, and for the most part, most campuses were at a B or a A rating on the academic achievement domain. So hopefully it will help. The CCMR opportunities will help, and we should most campuses be at a B or even an A rating next year is what we're looking forward to. And that's A through F accountability. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer them.
Jim, you want to go on with the next presentation?
Let me say this. I was talking, I had it on mute. I think the important thing is that the two F campuses, those two that were rated, Midland and Pasadena, that's tremendous because they were F rated before. And so we got a good pass this year with the not rated campuses. But as Jim has said, I think, Jim, I wish you would have shown that spreadsheet where you projected for next year.
Projected.
Yeah, we'll have, we won't have any F campuses or Ds, will we, Jim?
I don't believe so. I think the lowest was a C or two campuses at a C rating projected, but for the most part, they were A's and B's.
Mhm. So,
and that was for the one domain, though, the academic achievement. So we're still relying heavily on the CCMR opportunities as well. But because we monitor that in our local metrics weekly. And so it does show already that category is improving. And then when we get our Texas College Bridge results back, that should improve that even more because we're waiting for the 9-week semester to end and before we can start looking at those results. So it does show quite a bit of improvement coming our way, which we're hopeful for and thankful for.
Thank you.
Jim, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your due diligence. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I think the next one is my information item as well. So do you just want me to go into it, Mr. Clements?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. And this information item regards the federal and state grants management procedures manual. It was introduced a few meetings back, and it's just a manual that describes the process for applying for funds, federal funds, how expenditures are completed, how they're approved, just a extensive manual on the entire process. And part of that process is a regular micro purchase threshold set at $10,000. But every year a district can increase their threshold. And so we wanted to align it with the other purchase threshold, which is 50,000, less than 50,000. So we completed a self-certification process with TEA, which we're allowed to do if we meet, if the LEA is a low risk auditee for their most recent federal audit, which we were. So we were allowed to self-certify and increase our threshold from $10,000 to $49,999, which basically just means a lot less paperwork because every little purchase doesn't have to go through a process in order to make that purchase. We can start at 50,000. And so we did apply for that. It was approved and it is included in the manual. And I noted it on the recommendation side. It's on pages 28 and 29 where it discusses that increase of threshold. And that's 28, 29 of the manual. So it is on page
Is it
151.
Okay.
And it's section 10.16, and it just talks about that it's set at $10,000, but that we were able to increase our threshold to less than 50,000. And all the criteria for meeting that and being able to use that threshold. And it goes through pages 151, 152, and then at the very end, I believe on page 48 of the manual, is the self-certification form that we submitted to TEA that was approved. And Dr. Anderson just wanted to introduce this to the board to make y'all aware that we did increase our threshold for micro purchases. And that's all for that information item, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions or comments? Thank you for the good report.
And thanks, sir.
What's up next? Dr. Lambert, annual bilingual report.
Yes, sir. Hi, good morning, everyone. So what I'm presenting today is a accounting of the students that are identified as emergent bilingual here at RMA. And I'll also report out basically how we're serving those students and what programming we're using to serve them. So this is the Texas Education Code that supports the why behind today's presentation. Basically, in short, I'm reporting out on LPAC progress. So language proficiency assessment committees have been meeting since we are made aware of students enrolling and students that are, still coming back to us that are emergent bilingual, and we're having those meetings as they come in. However, this report surrounds the first 4 weeks of this school year, and it's important to know that the data being presented is as of September 20th of this school year. Okay. So part of that code requires that we report out on special language programs and what we do here at RMA. So just know that it's a two-pronged approach. We must identify the students and certainly provide some instructional support. But what we do here at RMA is ESL content-based, which basically means we have a second language acquisition methods that are used to ensure their full proficiency in English. So knowing that we use that model, here's how we're doing it and who facilitates that. We have 2 ESL teachers. We do have 1 vacancy. The campuses currently are equitably divided amongst those 2 ESL teachers, and they actively collaborate with the classroom teachers and provide direct support to students. So this slide it reflects the best practices of any ESL model. So we talked a little bit about it earlier. It was just supporting that biliteracy, that bilingualism, and ensuring that they're proficient in English also. Okay. So when we talked about having LPAC meetings and students incoming, this is beginning a year. This is what we do. This is not unique to RMA. It is mandated. These are the steps we take when we are aware that a student is incoming, that English is not their first language. So of course we request the records, check the TREX database. You can go on, but thank you. We document what we find via in the LPAC paperwork, and then we determine if the student was previously served or previously identified as a emergent bilingual student. We certainly, again, this is required for every district in the state. However, it's important that you know that we honor the original identification. So if originally a student, the parent filled out a home language and said they speak Spanish at home, that's what we honor. So we also communicate to the family member in regards to the ESL services that we provide here at RMA, and we enter the student into PEIMS. So what does this, the number of students being served here at RMA, this is a breakdown. I certainly want to show your attention to the Odessa campus in comparison to everyone else. when I talked earlier about that one vacant position, we did post it to reflect the Odessa campus. So potentially, if we had an applicant out of the Odessa area, then they would be housed at the Odessa campus to serve those students, those 50 those students there. So beyond the 2 ESL teachers that are certified in directly supporting those LPAC meetings or facilitating those LPAC meetings, directly supporting teachers, we do have teachers in the classrooms that are ESL certified as well. And so this graph represents a total of 11 teachers, with the majority of those in the classrooms, and we have 11% of those, which is one, from who's a distance teacher, and that person is certified as a teacher of English as a second language. So that was a lot of information. However, what I want you to take away from it is that bar graph is the most important when you think about students that are being served here or identified here at RMA as second language learners, and that we do have staff actively collaborating with those classroom teachers and conducting those LPACs. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. What is the biggest challenge you're finding when it comes to the ESL students and teacher correlation?
One more time, what is the biggest challenge in?
The correlation between the students and the teachers, or just in general with the ESL program?
The biggest challenge is that we don't have enough teachers. We have students that certainly maybe Spanish is their strongest language, and it's sometimes hard to support them in Spanish and in English, but we have Edgenuity. We're able to translate some of those courses, but that's the biggest thing, is reaching each and every one of them and being able to support them in the language which they're strongest in. And of course, we need staff. We need that third position filled. So that is certainly a #1 challenge.
And the staff, the third position, you did mention it was going to go straight to Odessa, basically, right? Where it's
Yes.
your
Yes.
biggest one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
so,
need-
so what are we doing for advertising for that position? Position?
Well, of course, it's on Indeed. We have refreshed the position. Other than that, that's all. And certainly, we have actively interviewed. We did have some applicants, but we're looking for the best, right? And so, but other than that, that's all we've been doing.
It should be posted on the region. And Christina, you correct me if I'm wrong. It should be posted on the region service centers as well as our own website. And is that correct, Christina?
Yes.
Okay, so it's posted on more than just Indeed, Dr.
Yes.
Any other questions? Comments?
Sorry. How long has the position actually been open? How long have we been scouting?
Since the beginning of the school year.
I have to tell you that I'm a ESL student myself, so it's kind of really heartbreaking to see that kids are challenging and are trying to get education and prosper, and they cannot. So we can kind of push the efforts to try to find that one teacher, especially for that. I like to see that change.
Agreed.
And what happened to the one applicant that was interviewed, Dr. Lambert?
We've actually interviewed 2 applicants. Respectfully, the interview didn't, go well, and they did not have much experience with students who are learning English as a second language, and appeared maybe not empathetic to the plight of students who are learning English as a second language. They had gotten the certification, but had never applied the certification in practice.
And how many more do we have have applied?
That was it. We interviewed every applicant that applied, which
So
was
no more in the queue?
no more in the queue, sir.
If there aren't any other questions or comments, move on to the Dr. Givens introduction of new academic department team members.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to introduce our newest additions to the academic department and to the special ed department. I would like to start with Dr. Vicki McCoy. Dr. McCoy, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. First, I would like to thank the board, Dr. Anderson, and the academic department for this opportunity. I have just under 30 years of experience in education, everything from elementary to high school, night school, high school, and also campus level administration, being a principal, dean, assistant principal. One thing that I've noticed in my short time here at RMA is the elevated level of commitment that I've seen from the staff and the students here at RMA. There is a higher mission and a higher calling that is needed for our students. And I've seen that from the staff and the central office personnel as I've been around the district. I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to growing and learning with the district, and hope to have many more prosperous and happy days. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. McCoy. And next we have our newest district counselor coordinator, Miss Stacy Brown.
Good morning board, good morning all. I am so excited to be here. It took a little while to get here, but I'm excited to be working with everyone. I have been 18 years in education and 13 years in counseling. I spent the last 10 years at Conroe High, graduating as many seniors as I possibly can. I've been working with the counselors here to kind of get everybody on the same path and get everything straightened out. Looking forward to working with all of those counselors, and it's just been an amazing experience so far. I want to thank the board and everyone else for helping me get aboard.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next is our newest district instructional coordinator, Miss Eulilia Childs.
Good morning, everyone. I am excited to be here. My background is in English language arts. I spent 6 years teaching as an English language arts teacher at the middle school level. And then I moved into being an assistant principal. So my last position was with KIPP, Texas. So I am familiar with the charter school, and I'm just excited to be a part of RMA. I absolutely am grateful for the experience and the opportunity to have went to the charter conference to connect with you guys. I'm already loving the people that I work with. I'm loving the model that we have here. This is my first time with credit recovery, dealing with high school. So I'm just excited about the knowledge and the growth that I believe that I will obtain here. So thank you. And I'm just excited to be a part of the family.
Thank you. And we're excited to have you too. And last but definitely not least is our newest district special education instructional service coordinator, Mr. Jerry Smith.
Hello, everyone. I'm also very, very excited to be able to join the team. I have several years experience working in various types of charter schools, Harmony schools, priority schools, and wayside schools. I've seen a lot of great things in charter schools that I hope to bring to the table. I've seen some not so great things in charter schools that I hope that we absolutely avoid, and I know we will. I am very excited to join the team and see what we can do for our teachers and for our kids, and just take care of business, do everything we need to do. And I also am very appreciative to the board and Dr. Lambert and others for this opportunity. I'm very excited.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us here at Richard Milburn Academies.
Thank you, Dr. Givens. Welcome to all of you. We move to action items.
Excuse me, Bob, before we move on, back to the ELA, I would like for us to start entertaining a bonus to entice an ELA instructor. So I don't know when we should do that, but we need to do something, and I'll agree with.
Well, they already would get, if they're new to the district, they would get that ESL new hire bonus.
Yeah, I just want to do whatever we can to entice. And if we have to build the bonus, because we're late in the school year now. So let's just talk about that later.
We also got to be mindful, guys, that there's a teacher shortage in the state too. So we're competing with lower salaries. So we're probably not the only one without an ESL teacher. But so we're doing all that we can. Anytime I get recruitment emails for people who can help us with placements, I forward those to Christina so that she can reach out to those people and see if they have any ESL candidates. Christina should have reached out to, we should have connections with some of the certification programs and seeing who they have that's in the pipeline for ESL certifications in their programs and things of that nature. So if we have not been more aggressive on that, then here and now I'm asking Christina to become more aggressive in that regard.
Thank you. Yeah. And I hear you clearly, but it seemed like it's a state of emergency right now.
Move on to the action items. I believe the action items primarily are related to updating board policies. And I understand right, the board the last several years has done a lot of really hard work on developing a good set of policies. I believe most of these policies, we're just adopting updates. And we've gone to a situation where we have a subcommittee to vet these policies and then try not to reinvent the wheel and look at the whole set of policies that the board in previous years have adopted, only the changes. I believe that saves us a lot of time and keeps us with a good set of policies without getting buried and looking at the detail and hundreds of thousands of pages of policy. Dr. Anderson had talked to me earlier about perhaps employing someone to even vet some of the policies that come from our vendor who provides us policy service to make sure that they integrate with our existing policies. I think that's a good idea. I'm sure he'll talk about that more sometime. First set of policies there, Dr. Givens again, the adoption of updated RMA Texas Board Policy Series Module 2 instruction.
Yes, and as you said, Mr. Clemens, we met back on September 19th, and the committee did meet, and we went through the board policies, and I believe everyone has a chance to see the board policies. The biggest changes were the adoptions that were presented by the law firm of Schumann, Lopez, Hoffer, and Adelstein, and we took those out. And really the only thing that we discussed in our meeting was about the fact that providing transportation was not in line with our charter. And with that, I'm asking that the board adopt the policies that have already been vetted by the committee and already have been provided to you to review. But of course, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Do we have any questions or comments? Would entertain a motion that we approve the adoption of the updated RMA Texas Board Policy Series Module 2 as presented by Dr. Givens.
Russ Thompson. I move that we adopt the updated RMA Board Policy Series Module 2 for instructions.
Second that motion.
We have a motion second that we adopt policies presented by Dr. Givens. Call for a vote, record vote. Ms. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson.
Yes.
I vote yes too. Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next set of policies are Dr. Lambert. These are OMA Texas Board Policy Series Module 6, Special Education.
Yes, sir. We certainly was a part of that board policy meeting earlier, and standouts in this policy revision or editing is notated on the background here, but that the behavior intervention plan, when made a part of the ARD committee meeting, or when a student presents with a behavior intervention plan, that it is reviewed at every ARD committee meeting, and that if an ARD ends in disagreement, that we have the option of seeking out an independent facilitator if we're not able to come to mutual agreement, and that is the step before mediation. Again, updated to children who transfer into the district during the summer. Previously, well, the updated policy is that if they transfer in the summer, the first day of school is day one of services. The 6.8, which was a big one, they were changing, replacing the language of limited English proficient with emergent bilingual student, and the eligibility criteria on specific learning disabilities in regards to evaluations were updated to align with the legal frameworks.
Questions or comments? If not, I would move that we adopt the updated RMA Texas Board Policy Series Module 6, Special Education, as presented by Dr. Lambert. We have a second.
Rose Thompson, second.
We have a motion and a second that we adopt these special ed policies. Roll call vote. Ms. Pearson.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries. Dr. Lambert, looks like you're up for the next set of adoption of special education operating procedure manual.
Yes, sir. It's a beautiful document that was written by Shulman Lopez, Hoffer and Adelstein. So where we're minimal editing to that document, it's going to reflect, it's going to be front facing on our public website, and certainly access for parents and a handbook for employees here. And it addresses every piece of special education as we know it to be, and includes resources that are hot linked. We didn't do any major editing to the document as presented to us. This is it in its totality. It's a pretty impressive document, I think. Any questions?
Questions, comments? We entertain a motion, adoption of this special education operating procedures manual.
I've reviewed the document in its totality, and I move the adoption of the RMA Special Education Operating Procedure Manual.
Second the motion.
Have a motion, second. Roll call, Ms. Pearson.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries. Next, in the last section, is the realignment officer for the Charter Holding Board of the Directors. I'll ask Dr. Anderson to address sort of how this came about and what his recommendation for a solution for this year would be.
All right. So in the bylaws, the positions are actually outlined. Becky has more on the history of how all of this got reworked, but in the bylaws, it calls for a president, 2 vice presidents, a treasurer, and a secretary. And in there is nowhere listed an assistant secretary. And so technically we are out of compliance. And so we want to realign our positions to what's stated in our bylaws. Is that correct, Becky? It's in the bylaws, right?
Yes, sir. When the bylaws were updated was when that correction was made. So just recently then we realized that in order to align with the bylaws, especially with charter renewal this year, and then also because of governance reporting also taking place on December 1st, we wanted to make sure everything was aligned appropriately.
Okay. And so this was, Ms. Bender made that change, correct, in the bylaws, Becky, before when she did some adjusting?
Yes, sir. And she had brought it to her attention, but it had remained the way it was, that it was really not the custom to have an assistant secretary. There was reasons behind why we felt like that position might be important just in case of the absence of the secretary. But she did bring it to our attention even then that the custom would be actually to have like the president, 2 vice presidents, the secretary, and a treasurer. So when she left, she had updated that and we didn't realize she updated that.
So
yes, sir.
So we have 2 options on the table. Would you scroll down? The first option is just taking the assistant secretary, which would be Ms. Pearson, and making her that vice president since it's directly affected her position. However, option 2 is my recommendation. Not to take light of it, but because of Dr. White's technology abilities and skills, I would feel more comfortable if Ms. Pearson would be willing to serve as the secretary because she's more comfortable with emails and the certified agenda. She would be able to get that stuff to Mr. Clemens and everything. And then asking Dr. White to serve as that second vice president.
Ms. Pearson, Ms. Thompson, do y'all have any comments?
After listening to the comments, I'm for option number 2.
Ms. Pearson, are you okay with that? Would you be
Yes,
willing
sir.
to? Okay.
My only comment was I really am not very much on titles. I think all board members have the same responsibilities, and titles are kind of meaningless to me. So I'm sure I'm fine with whatever the recommendation is. And I know we need to be in compliance for the relicense and recertifications coming up. So I'd entertain a motion that we, I'll make a motion that we adopt option 2, the recommendation that Dr. White will move up to the second vice president. We'll have to hold this still for me, Becky.
Okay, sir, where do you want me to, this is the motion. Do you want me to come down to the slate?
Yeah, the second option.
Okay.
The motion that we to approve the recommendation, the second option, moving Dr. White up to vice president, position 2, and moving Ms. Pearson up to secretary. Have a second?
Rose Thompson, second.
Vote, Ms. Pearson,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries. Do we have any other business today? I see that we have a board meeting listed for November the 10th, I believe it's Thursday. And then at this time, we have a board retreat scheduled for November 14th, 15th. I think that's going to be contingent upon some of our board members regaining their health, so that we can have a reasonable attendance. I hope that'll take place. I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to meet
And Ms. Thompson, for that meeting on the 14th, we've made provision for you to be able to attend virtually and participate.
Thank you.
We have any other business? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Rose Thompson, I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
A second, the meeting be adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned. See y'all next month. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Have a great
everyone.
weekend.